I often encourage people to pay attention to the birds around them and see what you can learn from them. But what does that actually mean? Can you really learn something from an ordinary bird? When you see a bird, what kind of impressions come to your mind? Maybe you think it's cute and soft-looking. Maybe that it's a simple creature hopping around, peeping and eating seeds. But birds are one of the most intelligent forms of life on the planet. Birds have great memory, they use language to communicate, they have social networks and even culture that they teach to one another. The scientific community has only scratched the surface of how birds communicate and think. It's almost like trying to talk to an alien life form. Their brains work entirely differently from ours. When I talk about birds being intelligent, I don't just mean an exotic parrot mimicking human speech, or when some faraway species of crows teach each other to make tools that look like ours. No, I talk about ordinary birds. Even the most common birds are intelligent, social, and complex. Intelligence comes in many forms. Whenever you see a bird, there is an opportunity to learn. Let's take something as ordinary as a little brown songbird. If you live in North America, you've probably seen this small bird around a park or a backyard. This bird is called the Dark-eyed Junco. It is one of the most abundant and recognizable birds on the continent. Despite having seen them all over, you probably know very little about this little bird. Today I will talk about facts and behaviors that you can observe the next time you see a Junco. First, let's get to know this backyard visitor. The full name of this bird is the Dark-eyed Junco. Some know them as just snowbirds. Even the scientific name, Huemalis, means something of winter. This name stems from the fact that in the southeastern United States, they could only be seen during winter, as they migrate back to the north for summer. They are a fairly small songbird with a wingspan of 7 to 10 inches, and they weigh up to 4.3 standard marshmallows. Dark-eyed Juncos come in many regional variants. Originally, they were thought to be separate species entirely, but the American Ornithologists Union now recognizes them as single species. The systematics of how these now subspecies relate to each other are not entirely understood. My local variant is called the Oregon Junco, which has a dark black head, bronze-colored back, and a little bit of brown under the wings. These birds can be found across most of North America sometime during the year. They migrate to the southern areas for winter and stay in the north for the summer. Here in Seattle, the Juncos stay year-round, and they are very common feeder visitors. Now let's observe this curious bird around our feeder and see what we can learn from them. On the feeder, the Juncos are tame, curious, and easy to recognize. One of the most abundant birds on my feeder for sure. They never come by themselves. They usually visit me in groups of 2 to 4, but I have counted up to 12 Juncos at the same time. They are often accompanied by other birds such as chickadees. From this behavior, we can see that the Junco is a social bird. During the day, the Junco takes advantage of the flock it's in. Early in the morning, the birds are more cautious and become more calm when the day progresses and the birds become more certain that there are no predators around. When foraging together with other birds, they are observed to be less vigilant of their surroundings compared to being alone. The group will help each other spot any dangers. During nighttime, the Juncos roost in trees in a group. During breeding time, the mated pairs roost together. They count on safety in numbers. When the Juncos come to my feeder, they usually take turns. You can observe some Juncos waiting while the others are collecting food. Sometimes a bird is eating but suddenly gets driven away by another Junco. Some Juncos seemingly get to eat in peace. They also interact with each other a lot, making lots of noises and aerial acrobatics as they chase each other around. This tells us that there is a hierarchy within the flock. In fact, the Juncos follow a linear social dominance hierarchy. This means that each bird has its position in the hierarchy above some bird but behind others. A literal pecking order, you could say. The order is driven by the bird's age and size. This means that males are often higher than females, and older birds higher than younger ones. The juncos often sit on the feeder while eating. This is different from many of my other visitors. Many birds, such as the black-capped chickadee, pick up a seed and fly away with it. But the junco sits calmly while it eats. That's why they are the easiest songbird to recognize on my feeders. This behavior hints to us that the juncos do not stash their food, but instead forage new food every day. Their natural food sources in the wild are abundant and consistent enough that they can just eat the food when they find it. That's why you get to see them often, as they come back several times every day. When the juncos are not on a feeder, they often hop around the ground and forage around the yard, as opposed to just being content with what's on the feeder. They're usually found scratching near the trees or under the bushes. This is how a junco collects food in the wild. Most of their food comes from the leaf coverage on the ground. They often scratch and dig to move the leaves while trying to find small seeds and insects. They move around by hopping, often forwards but sometimes sideways when they are circling an insect. They prefer to stay near or under cover, possibly to avoid predators. I love seeing them do this. Carefully observing their behavior is always interesting to me. It's almost like you can see gears in their head turning as they search for food. Their natural food choices can also be observed on the feeder. In nature, they prefer the smallest seeds. On my feeder, they gravitate towards the millet. Many times they opt for eating the seeds that have fallen to the ground instead of being on the feeder, as it matches their natural behavior. They sometimes eat peanuts, but seem to avoid the black oil sunflower seeds. This has also been observed in scientific studies. The junco prefers food that has low effort to eat, even when food with higher energy content is available. The black oil sunflower seeds have higher energy contents, but they take much more work to open and eat. So the junco opts for the easy millet and shelled peanuts. I guess they opt for the lazy food types, knowing that much more is available for later. Today we have observed 5 behaviors that tell us something about this curious little bird. We have observed cooperative foraging, social hierarchy, food capture, and foraging style, as well as the choice of food, which all tell us something about how these birds live their lives. When watching birds, I recommend trying to be active and think about what the bird is doing. It adds an element of curiosity compared to just passively noticing a bird. To identify a bird you don't recognize, you can use the Merlin app from Cornell Labs. Merlin is an app that can help you identify birds. When you see a bird, the app will ask you where you are, the bird's size, the main colors, and what the bird was doing. It'll then present the list of the most likely birds that you could have seen. Usually the bird is one of the top options. Once you have the bird identified, you can look it up on allaboutbirds.org. They have accurate and current information about most birds freely available. You will be able to find range information, basic facts, backyard tips, and interesting tidbits. Most birds also have a lot of information available on Wikipedia, and you can use the references section to find even more detailed facts. The next time you go birding, observe the same bird for a while and try these tips. See if you can figure out what it's doing. Can you point out a behavior that fits the bird? Can you find different species doing different things? Let me know what you find. Which of the behaviors I described today can you see in your local juncos? Can you figure out who are the dominant birds in the flock? Can you see what kind of food they're eating and where it comes from? Let me know in the comments. I hope this video inspires you to observe birds in an active way. I wish everyone could experience the joy I get from watching birds. Observing them in this manner can make any bird encounter exciting. Birds are one of the most abundant and visible forms of wildlife around us, so take the opportunity and enjoy seeing them and learning from them. Noticing and appreciating every bird, no matter how ordinary, is my goal. Thank you for watching my video. I had a lot of fun making it. Make sure to hit like if you enjoyed it and let me know in the comments what you think about it. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you wish to get notified of new content, make sure to hit that bell as well. Thank you to my wonderful patrons for supporting me and helping me make my videos polished and professional. If you'd like to help me as well and have your name up here, You can find me on Patreon and Ko-fi at Big Purple Sentry. For even more bird content, you can follow me on TikTok and Twitter at Big Purple Sentry. Happy birding, good luck noticing birds, and talk to you again soon! Okay.